The branchless tree in the garden. The centerpiece of the abandoned Blackwood Estate garden isn't a fountain or a gazebo. It's a tree of impossible dread. Standing 70 feet high in the exact center of the ruined property is a massive oak, perfectly straight and thick yet completely devoid of branches. Its trunk rises like a colossal living pillar of dark, scarred wood, and its crest is a single blunt, sheared-off cap. The local kids call it the Sentinel. For Anya, a botanist specializing in folklore and pathology, the tree was a professional obsession. She'd read the journals of the original Blackwood owner, a man obsessed with a pagan ritual of enforced stasis, a belief that to stop a life from growing, you must permanently silence its vertical ascent. As Anya approached the massive trunk at dusk, the air around the tree was still and thick, tasting faintly of iron and dry earth. She touched the bark. It was cold, unnaturally smooth, and thrummed with a low, almost imperceptible vibration. As she placed her professional microphone against the wood, a faint, rhythmic thump-thump-thump began. Not a heartbeat, but the muffled sound of something heavy and soft striking the wood from the inside, far above. The rhythmic thumping from within the trunk intensified, sounding like a desperate, muffled struggle. Anya pressed her ear closer, and the sound shifted, resolving into a sickening, repetitive thwack-scrape, as if something heavy was continuously impacting the inner bark, then being dragged down before impacting again. The branches had been violently removed decades ago, but the tree was clearly still attempting to grow, and something inside was fighting that vertical ascent. She pulled out a core sampler, a specialized tool for taking a deep cross-section of wood. The moment the drill bit touched the bark, the thumping stopped completely. The wood itself seemed to inhale, and the air around the tree became vacuum-still. A thin, crystalline sap began to weep from the point where the drill bit had touched, but it wasn't sap. It was a clear, viscous liquid that smelled strongly of pine and human fear. As the liquid dripped, a low, collective whisper emanated from the tree's scarred trunk, a dry, papery sound that seemed to come from the countless layers of wood grain. The ascent is forbidden. The price is paid in silence. The whispers intensified, echoing off the scarred trunk, each voice brittle and ancient. Anya stepped back, aiming her high-powered lamp at the highest point of the tree, the brutal, sheared-off cap. The light revealed an impossibly dense crown of interwoven matted root systems, not reaching for the ground, but violently growing inward, creating a chaotic, suffocating lattice just beneath the tree's surface. It was a massive subterranean root ball that had somehow been inverted and grown into the air. Trapped within this organic cage, caught in the central mass of upward-growing root tendrils, was a single, massive, petrified object. A human head, stretched and distorted by the pressure, its mouth stretched in a soundless scream. The head was completely encased in wood, its eyes replaced by dark knots of sapwood. The horrific sound of thwack-scrape resumed, originating from the center of the inverted root ball, the rhythmic impact of the head, still attempting to grow upward, being continuously pulled back by the sheer crushing density of the forced down growth. The whisper became a single piercing thought in Anya's mind. They buried him alive, upside down, and forced his roots to hold the prison. A terrifying realization slammed into Anya. The tree wasn't just a prison. It was a living, botanical monument to a man violently condemned to perpetual inverted growth. The thumping and scraping was his body's continuous, agonizing attempt to complete the ritualistic ascent. The branchless trunk was the result of a magical, malevolent form of topiary, designed to eternally bind the life force. With a desperate heave, Anya grabbed her thick steel axe, a tool intended for clearing brush, and swung it with all her strength against the bark, aiming for the spot where the sap had wept. The blow resonated with a deep, sickening thwunk, and the wood fractured. The movement inside the tree stopped. The oppressive silence returned, absolute and paralyzing. But the victory was short-lived. From the fracture point, a thick, black root, covered in fine, white, bone-like fuzz, exploded outward with a wet snap, whipping out like a striking serpent. It wasn't seeking the ground. It was seeking warmth. Anya dodged the primary root, which struck the ground with enough force to churn the earth. She scrambled backward, her skin crawling with a sudden, profound cold. The black root, thicker than her arm, was pulsing, and from its tip, a small, silvery, fibrous substance began to unfurl, a minuscule aborted leaf. The sentinel was finally growing, but its growth was now hostile, carnivorous, and aimed at the nearest source of life. She grabbed a small, heavy jar of industrial copper sulfate, a potent herbicide, and hurled it at the base of the tree. The jar shattered, and the caustic chemical splashed over the exposed root and the fractured wood. A high-pitched, screaming sound erupted from the trunk, a raw, inhuman screech that seemed to vibrate the very ground. The enormous black root recoiled violently, whipping back into the fracture and sealing the wound instantly with a thick, gummy resin. Anya didn't wait. She ran, never looking back. Days later, a news report confirmed the Blackwood Estate had been demolished. But a blurry photograph of the ruins showed a small, dead patch of earth where the trunk had been, and beside it, a perfect, solitary shadow of a man, standing fixedly on the ground, pointing a thin, elongated shadow finger straight up into the empty sky. Subscribe to Whisper Dark for more.